Eric B's Daily Vlogs.
Welcome, everyone. It's the Daily Podcast and the Daily Vlogs. And I am your host, Eric B. In the waiting room right now, we have a special guest, executive producer, creator of The Cleaning Lady. I'm going to go ahead and send her in right now. She's getting in. We have Miranda Kwok in here right now. We have a lot of people jumping on. Oh, there she is, Miss Miranda. Thank you for jumping on. How are you doing this afternoon or evening?
I'm doing great, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was just talking to everybody. We had one person ask a question already, and it's a question I asked you yesterday, but she asked a question, and I promised I'm going to send her something for asking a question. So it's a relevant question. So everybody who's watching right now, everyone on Facebook Live, I shared the link to everything. Is that a dog behind you?
It is. That's Ronan.
Hi, Ronan. Miranda, thank you for being on the Daily Podcast and the Daily Vlog with me, Eric B. Go ahead and introduce yourself so everyone who's just jumping on and doesn't know who you are will get to know you by the end of the show.
Thanks, Eric. Hi, I'm Miranda Kwok. I am the executive producer and creator of Fox's new drama, The Cleaning Lady.
Yes. And as we spoke yesterday, I told you how in the beginning, I was not interested in watching the show at all. I thought it was just going to be a show that was like, okay, it's going to be a female who has some kind of I thought it was a female who was like a mercenary in her past life. And she's going to come here and she's going to take out the whole mob. But the way you wrote this, the way you're writing and the way your creativiness, I totally love. And not just me, we have a whole bunch of people in the Bay Area. We have a whole bunch of people outside of the Bay Area, whether it's a Filipino community or Asian community who loves what you're doing with this show. But let's get started with how you got started. I know Cleaning Lady wasn't your first, so let's go back to the past and talk about how you got started and why you like being behind the scenes and not in front of the scenes.
Well, thanks for giving the show a shot. I appreciate it. I know the title can be a little deceiving, but we definitely try to defy stereotypes in this. I did start my career in front of the camera and, but there were never enough roles, especially for Asian women. And also because everyone would just see me as an Asian woman, and writing enabled me to sort of go beyond that in terms of storytelling. And I guess when I made the shift, one of the most important, moments for me is when I walked into the Toronto Metropolitan Library and I saw this memorial for the comfort women. So during World War II, the Japanese military abducted over 200,000 women and forced them into sexual slavery to serve their troops. Wow. And I saw this display and I read some of the stories, and the images just devastated me. And I just stood there for a moment, just overwhelmed. And then I felt ignorant. I felt like, how did I not know about this? And then I realized that no one knew about this because it was buried for 50 years.
Yes.
And so, as I was, so basically I realized like that is a story that just needs to be told in some way or another. And, I was acting, I started producing, and I realized the only way to tell the kinds of stories that I wanted to tell was to write. And, so that story was the story that kept me up at night. My roommates at the time, they actually joked that I should set an alarm clock for when I should go to bed, as opposed to wake up, because it kept me up. These characters and these stories would just come to my mind. And I just had this, it was just burning inside me to write it and get that story out. Wow. So that was basically my first real foray into screenwriting specifically. Breaking out of the acting we've had a lot of shows where you have a lot of, kick-ass women and martial artists. And so my intention of storytelling was different. My intention was to tell stories that mattered, tell stories that counted. And that screenplay ended up winning the Slam Dance screenplay competition. Wow. And so that made me realize, okay, well, maybe I've got, something there, I've got a story to tell. And so that was my, I guess, my launching point into becoming a writer as opposed to being an actor.
Nice. Now, how, and I know there's, that you get questions like this a lot, but how difficult was it for you being an Asian woman who's trying to make it in this kind of business? I know there's a lot of stereotypes when it comes to Asian women. The first thing they say is like, "Oh, are you a martial artist? Do you all the stereotypes that sometimes Hollywood gives us." How did you, come over that? How did you get over like, hey, I'm not just an Asian woman, but I'm an Asian woman who can write and can, share my stories with you guys in writing?
I guess I never, I don't go about my day feeling like I'm a stereotype, right?
Good.
It's not who
Good.
I am.
Good.
I grew up with an older brother. So, I rode he rode a motorcycle. I rode a motorcycle.
Nice.
Like I played rugby. I was always a bit of a tomboy. And so I never defined myself by anyone else's, stereotype or definition or however they wanted to typecast me. And so I think that I went around my business the same way, is that I don't pigeonhole myself, even on the writing front. Like when I won Slam Dance for Song of Silence, a lot of people requested the script, and Slam Dance is kind of known more as an indie festival that happens at Sundance, and so they were expecting like a thriller or a horror, and it was like instead this World War II epic drama, which is obviously a challenge to get made. But even on the page, people were like, well, we don't take historical writers. And it's like, just because I wrote historical drama doesn't mean I'm a historical writer. So again, it was, just defying the stereotypes. Finally I had a referral from a friend. I finally got myself an agent, because even after winning the competition, it was still difficult, because also it was the only script that I had. Yeah. And, so I met with an agent who said, okay, you've proven you can write. Now you need to prove you can write someone else's show. And so I sat down, I watched 3 seasons of House. Okay. And then, just studied the format, the characters, the act outs, all of it, and wrote a spec episode in 2 weeks. So I'm actually, I'm completely self-taught as a writer. Nice. I didn't go to any fancy screenwriting school or get any fancy degree like that. Yeah. And I basically am self-taught. I read books. I took a couple, feature screenwriting courses, but nothing about television. And so it was just, pure determination and just studying the craft and getting a sample out. And nice. So then I had 2 samples. I had a House spec and I had a feature about comfort women. So again, like, how do you balance that out? I was fortunate. I sent that to my agent, and he said, this has put you at the top of my pitching list. Nice. And then the writer's strike happened. Yeah. So again, I had to pound the pavement, and I applied to a few screenwriting programs, like every studio and network have, there's the ABC Disney Writers Program. There's the CBS Diversity Mentorship Program, which I ended up getting into. But at the same time, I actually, I'm jumping the story a bit, because I did win a scholarship to the LA Film School as a producer. Okay. And in that, I produced 2 short films. And one of them was about hot lesbian biker chicks. Okay. And so, I'm very good at networking, and I keep in touch with people. And one of the stunt girls, she, I went out with her one night, and she said, how's everything going? I said, actually, things are going well, because I was acting, I was producing, and I just started getting into writing. So I said, things are really going really well on the writing front. And, I just had 3 meetings for Lie to Me. I got into the CBS program. I was a finalist for the NBC Writers on the Verge. And she points to the guy next to her and she goes, well, you should talk to Steve, because he just got his own show and he's staffing next week. And I had no idea that this guy sitting next to her with this like shaved head and tribal tattoos up both of his arms was Stephen DeKnight. Nice. And he just got Spartacus. Yes. So, but it was like, it was a 5-minute conversation. Music was blaring. I didn't think anything of it. And then, because it's Hollywood and you meet people all the time. Yeah, yeah. And the next day, Linda called and she said, so Steve was really impressed by you. Do you have a script? So I sent over my House spec, and I got an email saying, read your spec, loved it, and I hate everything I read. Can you meet tomorrow for lunch? So, we met. Ironically, one of the first things he said to me was, you are the only writer who I've met with who I've been able to Google and see her kicking ass online.
Yes.
So, nice. Which ironically fit for Spartacus. So we had a good meeting, and he said, well, what else do you have? And the only other thing I had was my Comfort Woman script, which, is a feature, it's historical and doesn't normally translate for television. But fortunately, not fortunately, but, the Comfort Woman script is about slavery, and Spartacus is also about slavery. So it ended up being a great sample. He sent those two scripts to Starz and Ghost House Pictures, and 2 weeks later, I got staff.
Nice. 2010 Spartacus. And the funny thing is, I actually watched that, and I didn't know you wrote it, and I'm like, wow, I'm gonna have to rewatch it again with you in mind when I'm watching that show. But yeah, that was nice. And I'm getting a lot of questions right now, so we're gonna get down to it. You shared with me yesterday when we spoke on how you came up with the concept of the cleaning lady, and your pick on the Filipinos and why you chose the Filipino community. Go ahead and share that with everyone else, because I found that I got off with you yesterday, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. So first of all, thank you for all the Filipino communities. Thank you for exploiting us Filipinos, sharing our stories. There's a lot of Filipinos out here who didn't know what the show was about, and now it's like I told you yesterday, I got families in the Philippines who were trying to spoil it for me. Stop trying to spoil it for me. Don't tell me what happened. But yeah, this show is, if it's being watched in the Philippines, it's hitting a lot of lives. It's sharing a lot of lives, whether it's all good positive stuff. But go ahead and share what you said to me and how the cleaning lady came about.
Thank you. I'm so grateful that it is resonating with so many people, and appreciate you sharing that with me as well. So what happened was, the way I got this to develop this particular show is I worked 4 seasons on a show called The 100 on the CW network, which is also produced by Warner Brothers. And actually, after 3 seasons, my contract was up, and I went out for staffing, and I got offered another job, and I went to tell the showrunner of The 100. He said, no, we want you back. And of course, they didn't have a pickup yet, so we weren't sure what was going to happen. And then Warner Brothers reached out and said, well, if you agree to come back, if the show comes back, we'll give you what's called a blind script deal, which is a development deal. Yeah. So of course I said yes. I loved working on The 100. A lot of really great people. And, that's a show, that had a lot of female empowerment, a lot of, great themes and characters, and learned a lot from. So I said yes. And so for the blind script deal, I basically had to, so I was working, The 100 came back. So I was working full time on The 100 while developing for Warner Brothers. And so I pitched them a few ideas, and they pitched me a few ideas. And one of them was La Chica que Limpia, which is the Argentinian format. Okay. And what excited me about that particular format was being able to create a show that was about female empowerment, and that was also a story about an undocumented immigrant, and specifically who was a Southeast Asian character. At the time, it was actually a Filipino character. And I saw that Shay Mitchell was the one who found the original format. And when I saw her name, everything sort of clicked, and I thought, it has to be Filipino. Yeah. And part of the reason why I felt so strongly about that and fought to keep that all the way is that, when I first went to Hong Kong many years ago, there was a Sunday afternoon where I was just shopping downtown, and I came across, basically just turned a corner, and covering the whole downtown core of Hong Kong were these Filipino workers. And they were gathered together, sitting on the street and on the pavement on these cardboard boxes that were opened up in plastic bags. And they were congregating with their lunches because it was their only day off, and they had no money to go anywhere, and they had no homes. Yeah. And it was something that just really affected me so strongly, to see all these people who were treated like second-class citizens. And then 5 years ago, when I went back to Hong Kong, it was the same thing. And in fact, it had, basically they had spread out. So they're not just downtown, it's all over the city. Every Sunday, all the Filipinos will gather. And it's just become a part of the culture. Yeah. And instead of, trying to fix the problem, it's just like, well, this is what it is. And this is, an issue that happens all around the world, not just Hong Kong, but in many countries, yeah. And specifically with a lot of overseas Filipino workers. Yeah. And so that, when I looked at this project called The Cleaning Lady, and I thought, okay, I really, really wanted this character to be from the Philippines. And to show a story of empowerment, how she is faced with many different obstacles, and a lot of obstacles and struggles in her way, and how she will eventually overcome them and make her own path and find her own voice, and eventually become a mob boss of her own, in the long-term story arc. So again, a story of empowerment, of how somebody who is marginalized, who is pushed in the shadows and is told to be silent, yeah. is able to eventually find her voice. Nice. So that's the inspiration for creating this show.
It's a great show, and I was telling everybody before you got on, if you guys haven't watched it yet, here in San Francisco in the Bay Area, it comes on Mondays at 9:00. If you guys check your local listings on what time it comes on, I'm pretty sure it's Mondays everywhere else, but just depending on what time. But it's definitely a good show. You're on 6 episodes. Last week's episode was a very heartwarming reality check to a lot of people, and I loved how you shared a story that a lot of us who comes home every day from work during our 9 to 5, we don't really see that backstory. You watch it on the news, you hear about, the immigrants trying to cross over the border, but you don't really see what they have to go through and what they have to pay to try to get over here. You hear about it, but you don't really see it. And I love how you wrote how, the whole storyline from and if you guys haven't watched it, I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil it for you guys. But how they have to pay with pretty much their lives to just try to come over here. And was that something that you saw? You did tell me yesterday that you did a lot of research before you did everything that. Was that something that you really witnessed, or was that something that you just wrote in?
That was part of the research. Michael Notarelli wrote that episode fantastically. But as a lot of the writers collectively come up with the stories, and we have all done a ton of research. So that was definitely an element that we discovered in our research. One of the issues she faces, with having a child who is immunocompromised and then requires liver is again the struggles of an undocumented and uninsured immigrant, an impoverished immigrant who doesn't have the resources as everyone else. And there's so many people who are in this predicament. That we did, do a deep dive into the organ trade across the world, because it is something that happens across the world, and that organs are taken from different parts of the world. And Philippines is one of them. Mexico is another. It is a real issue. And, because it is illegal to buy and sell tissues in most countries around the world, there are unfortunately people dying every day who are waiting for an organ. Yeah. And so it's a real controversial issue, even within the medical community, where, when you have an organ transplant, everyone gets paid. Every single person gets paid who's a part of that surgery, except the person who's actually donating the organ. And the most important thing, and yes, of course, there's arguments on both sides, but what at the end of the day, you really have to ask yourself, what's the most important thing? Is saving a life.
Yes.
And so that is an issue we wanted to tackle on the show. And so we tackled in this way in episode 6. Obviously in episode 4 was the bone marrow. And then episode 6 was the actual organ. And so in researching the many different ways you can get an organ on the black market, we did discover that there are a lot of people who pay for their passage through coyotes, or even just find other, have other needs, like even if it's not for their passage, to pay for their school, or just to, pay for their own, to pay their rent, or whatever it is. There's a lot of people who are in desperate situations who could use the money. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people who exploit them, and therefore, force them, like, once they come across, like, put them in a situation where they have to deliver and give up their organ, even if they're not medically fit to do that. And then the other thing that happens on the other side of that is that a lot of these people don't have the money or insurance. And so once they donate their liver or organ, they're left without post-op care and medical resources. So there are also a lot of situations where people, give up an organ and end up dying in the next few weeks because they didn't get the care they need.
Yeah.
So it's basically, it's a broken system. It's a broken medical system. I mean, as good as it is, there are a lot of things that are wrong with it as well. And so, unfortunately, the people who suffer are at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah.
And so that's what we really wanted to highlight with episode 6.
No, you guys did a great job on just how that worked out. One of the questions I got, Elise Dickinson was one of the first ones to ask a question. She asked a question that I'm going to ask later on. I asked you the same question yesterday. The chemistry between Tony and Armand, how's that going on? And there's like a hashtag going on right now. Armani? Is that what's going on social media?
Yes. Yes, their chemistry is fantastic, and it happened immediately. It happens on screen. I mean, off screen, they're really good friends.
Yeah.
They're actually very giggly together. There are a lot of scenes where they're supposed to be serious. Like the first time in the pilot, for example, in the car scene, when she tells him, like, you better treat me with respect. So in that scene, they were giggling nonstop. And that's their real chemistry, right? Is that they really do have that. And so we're really excited that, because when it works, it works.
Yes.
So we love being able to, play with that relationship. But also, what's really fantastic with their relationship is that it's so multi-dimensional, right? And there's so many layers to it, and it's not just a physical attraction.
Yeah.
There's a real depth to their relationship and why they connect. And on one level, it's they're both immigrants. They both face different struggles at different times, and he's seen the sacrifices that his parents made. And now he sees her making the sacrifices for her son. So of course he's completely motivated to help her in these unexpected ways. Yeah. And so, I think that, obviously it's fiction, and yet I think there's something real that they're connecting with there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it may be fiction on TV, but I think this is something that's happening that we don't know about, right? I'm pretty sure behind closed doors, this is really happening. The question I asked you yesterday was, how hard was it to get the group that you have right now? I mean, you picked these guys perfectly, guys and gals perfectly, for them to gel as a group and to make us believe that, Elodie, to me, she's a badass chick. I mean, she's there for her son. It's like she's facing an FBI agent. She's facing a mob boss. And she's like, I don't care. Whatever I need to do to help my son, that's what I'm doing. How was it difficult for you guys to find someone for her role that can, make us believe, she's really hard like this and she's going to be like this for her family?
Yeah, it's, honestly, it's a very challenging role to play. And Elodie is fantastic. And we did take a long time to find her. We did castings out of LA, New York, Toronto, Vancouver, the UK, Australia. So we did cast a wide net, and we did search for quite a long time. We did present other options to the network, and we really lucked out when we finally found Elodie. And we were actually supposed to, we had prepped to shoot the pilot and got everything ready, and then that's when the world started shutting down because of COVID. And so, we actually got shut down the day that we were supposed to start rolling cameras. And we didn't have Elodie yet. We didn't have half our cast yet. So one of the amazing things is, so we finally flew into LA to meet with her and to, basically do a callback with her. The director, Michael Offer, was still in Albuquerque. So he was on a Skype, because this was even before Zoom was a thing. So he was giving her direction on the Skype. And one of the amazing things is that we ended up casting Elodie right at the beginning of quarantine. And that just showed how much faith that Fox had in this show, because it basically cast her to hold her indefinitely. Because at that point in March, 2020, no one knew what was going to happen.
Everything shut down. Yeah.
Everything shut down. And so we actually were fortunate, because we had that time for the next few months to find the rest of the family and the rest of the cast. And Martha is another, fantastic, amazing actor. And what was fun about her casting story is that Elodie actually volunteered to do chemistry reads with the final, 4 or 5 people that we had in mind. Yeah. And so we all met on the Zoom, and, Elodie was in LA. Martha was in New York, and the moment they started speaking together, you could feel their chemistry on screen in different, time zones. And we're watching this happen, and they felt it and we felt it. And afterwards, Elodie called all of us and to say, well, it's Martha, right? It has to be Martha. I love Martha. It has to be Martha. We're like, okay, yes, we all love Martha, but we have to, of course, go through the process and go up the channels. But for them, it was love at first sight.
Nice. How difficult is that? I mean, you've done this before in the past, and you had readings where the person's right in front of you, and you can feel that, okay, this person is going to be Spartacus, right? But how difficult was it during COVID that you had to do this via Zoom, and you had to use your best judgment? I like her, but was that difficult for you guys to find via Zoom?
Yeah, absolutely. Because after the quarantine, every audition was on Zoom, right? Yeah. So, there were, the audition process had already started to be, on tape for a lot of people, because if you had an actor who was in a different country, that was the way to get him, get them in front of you. So it wasn't a new thing to quarantine, but then it became the only thing. Yeah. And, that chemistry read was very telling, because, for example, there was another actor who we thought was great and really, hilarious. And we put them, we saw them side by side, and it was like they were on 2 different shows. Like the tone was different, and there was just it didn't link up. So it was really interesting to see. Nice. Because at the end of the day, we are on a screen that is, it's an on-screen media. So, fortunately, we did have that. So it was a challenge, but in the end, we did get an amazing cast put together.
You do. The cast that you have right now is it can't be the cleaning lady without the cast that you have right now. I forget his real name. The person who plays Armand cannot be Armand. I can't see anybody else playing Armand. So incredible job for you guys to do that. That's definitely something, we're like, wow. And, ever since I started doing this shows like this, I started looking at things in more of the, in your eyes. I'm a fan first, but then I'm like, God, what did they go through to get, Elodie, Martha? What kind of progress did they have to pick? We see how they are on screen. And luckily for me, I follow them on Instagram. So I see how much fun they're having, offset or onset. And for you to share that with us, and for the characters that you guys share with us, the producers, the writers, man, thank you for doing that. This show is definitely a show that I want to see succeed. I want to see moving forward. Elise, who asked the question earlier, asked, is there a season 2 in the works?
Well, there's definitely discussions about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're really lucky that, for Warner Brothers and Fox, like this has been a passion project of theirs from the beginning. When they picked up the show to pilot early 2020, it was actually the first drama pickup that year. And so, and even at that time, speaking of casting, they actually said to us, we recognize that we will probably have to find two lesser known talents to play Tony and Fiona. And we're excited to do that. We're excited to find new talent to put on screen, and we just have to surround them with familiar faces. So they were always very passionate. Even when I pitched that it would be a character from the Philippines, they totally embrace that as well. So, we're very fortunate with that. And I think they really recognize how special and unique the project is because, we were putting characters on screen that don't normally have the spotlight.
Yeah.
We are taking marginalized voices and giving them a voice. And so, they're excited about that from the beginning. Then they were excited about the pilot that we delivered, and then also the season. So the last step of the big puzzle is how is this going to be received by an audience? And fortunately, it has been so well received and so welcomed by many different communities. And then we have 3.5 million people showing up every week.
Wow.
To watch live, with all the commercials. And,
Wow.
It's really hard to get people to do that these days when there's so many options available with cable and streaming,
Yeah.
when people can binge watch. Everyone's used to that. And so the turnout has been amazing. And I think if we can keep the turnout up
Yeah.
and keep the numbers up and even grow them, that will definitely help for a season 2 pickup.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be disappointed if there wasn't a season 2, but I am sure the way this is going, there's going to be a season 2. I mean, you have not just Filipinos watching, but people who are into this kind of drama, I guess you can say, drama scene. And not only is it drama, now it's turning into a little love story, like in the last episode. When I was watching that episode, I told you yesterday, I was like, they're not going to kiss. They're not going to kiss. I was like, oh my God, they're kissing. They're kissing. And I knew she was going to pull out. She was going to pull away. Like, I knew she just talked to her husband. Again, if you guys haven't watched it, shame on you guys. Spoiler alert for all this stuff. You guys should be watching this already. I love the little subtle hints that you guys put in there. In episode 1, when Fiona's son was coming out of the room, he was holding a bucket of Jollibee chicken.
Yes.
And, that was like, Filipinos, we love Jollibee. I mean, it's our it's our fried chicken. And in this last episode, Martha was cooking, and no one knew what she was cooking unless you're Filipino, because you saw the soy sauce and the vinegar sitting there, and she didn't mention, do you want some adobo? She just said, "Can I make you a bowl?" But for us Filipinos, we were like, she's making adobo.
Yes.
The only question I wanted to know was it chicken or beef, but those subtle hints that you guys are doing for us, for our community, I love those little things that you're showing. It's like, we call it Easter eggs, right? When we watch the little TV shows, like, hey, did you guys see the adobo she's making? Like, she didn't say she's making adobo. It's like, she was. There's the soy sauce. There's I forget the name of the vinegar that was used, but it's the same thing my mom uses when she makes adobo. So those little subtle hints, I definitely love that, how you guys are doing this. And it's a great show. It's a great show to have. I'm glad you're behind this. I'm glad you're doing everything you're doing that you're doing right now. And, I wish you nothing but great success moving forward. And I definitely want to see a season 2. I definitely want all that coming up. It's great. Again, for you guys who haven't watched it, Mondays here in San Francisco in the Bay Area, 9:00. Definitely watch it. I'm pretty sure if you guys have the cable company I have, you guys can just say, show me the cleaning lady, and, it'll play for you with that. Before I let you go, Miranda, anything you want to add? Anything you want to talk about?
I wanted to say we had the Filipina director Marie Jamora do episode 6, so she brought in the adobo. So that was a touch. She also brought in, I don't know if you noticed, well, you probably did, that Fiona was watching a TV show in her room when she was closed the door, which was a Filipino show that Marie brought in.
Nice.
But the Jollibee is actually something I fought for because Fox actually has actually is against product placement.
Oh, wow.
And so like we actually have to erase exposure. Like if we have a logo, we normally have to take it off, even if we're using a product. And so, but the reason they agreed to the Jollibee was because, we said this is a cultural touchstone. Yeah. And so it wasn't about product placement. This just is about the culture. And so they allowed us to have it in there. So we're really grateful for that.
What's funny here is the Jollibee here in the Bay Area in Daly City, it's the drive-through is 24 hours. And I can guarantee after that episode, there was a line going out for everyone to get a bucket of Jollibee chicken. But no, it was a nice touch. And again, these little things that when I'm watching, I'm like focusing on the TV screen. I'm watching the little things, especially when they're at home. When they're at home, there's like all these little things that if you're not paying attention, if you're just listening, you'll miss. And, I almost missed the Jollibee chicken, but I saw it. I'm like, he's holding a bucket of Jollibee chicken.
And Martha, Fiona is eating shrimp chips in the pilot as well. And one of the takes, she almost choked on it. She was, because she's talking and throwing it in her mouth. And so it's kind of funny. No,
yeah, I had Martha on. She's a great person and definitely cool vibes when you have both of them. And when I watch both of them together in a screen, especially that last scene where they were just, Fiona's character was mad at Tony for what she did, but then they found a way to like gel it and make it better. And I'm like, God, I feel this. And that's why when you mentioned earlier, find two characters that is not well known. I mean, this is going to put these two on the map. I mean, this is going to escalate their careers even more. And I know, Elodie from, she did the Marvel Elektra, or she was on Marvel's Elektra. That's where I know her from. And now she's the cleaning lady. She's forever going to be the cleaning lady to me. And I totally love it. I'm pretty sure everybody else loves it. So thank you for everything you do.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing thing is that you have these fantastic actors who never had the right vehicle to shine. And so, I feel so grateful and privileged to have this opportunity for them to show off, their, everything they're able to bring. And they bring their heart and their soul to the project. And, had we had more roles before for them, like they would have been on our screens all the time. And so now what this proves is that there is a whole bunch of untapped talent out there in diverse communities that have not had their chance. And so hopefully, there will be more opportunities for people who have been, just overlooked before. And now that, we can show that they do, they have that amazing star quality that they can bring.
If you need a cousin or an uncle for season 2, definitely call me. My Tagalog is not the best, but I'll make it work. Any future plans besides you trying to create or you hoping that, I'm very sure season 2 is going to come and the success of the show is just going to be obvious that season 2 will come. But other than this, is there any future projects that you have planned?
Yes, of course. I have another development deal with Warner Brothers. And looking at different material and projects as well to see what's next on top of the cleaning lady.
Oh, nice. Can't wait. I know you can't share it and I'm not going to try to share it with us. I know the secrecy of Hollywood, but Miranda, thank you so much again for jumping on. Thank you for, everything that you do. Thank you for representing, the Filipino community that we have. We love the show. I can speak for myself and I speak for a lot of Filipinos. We love this show. And if you're Filipino and you haven't seen the show, shame on you. You guys got to watch the show. Definitely watch it. We want to see a season 2 and I want to see your name on there again. That, it's like ever since we started chatting, I'm seeing your name more and more, like, Miranda Kwok. It's like, I was like, oh, I just spoke to her. So it was a great honor to have you on the show. And I wish you, the show, the cleaning lady and the cast, nothing but great success moving forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. Miranda Kwok, everyone. Again, watch The Cleaning Lady on Fox. Mondays here at 9:00 Bay Area time. Check your local listing. And Miranda, we'll see you again. Thank you again for being on.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for watching.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. That was a nice, great, fun interview. Thank you guys for jumping on. Merdad, am I saying your name right? Merdad, thank you for jumping on. Elise, you'll definitely get something in the mail. Thank you for jumping on. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for jumping on. Again, you guys are going to wonder why it's a short show. She has a really busy schedule, so I try not to keep her on as long. Same thing when I had Martha on last time. They have busy schedules. So I promise their agents that I'll try to keep them on as short as I can. Get all the questions out, and I want to thank you guys for jumping on and asking the relevant questions that you guys needed to ask. Let's say in the future we try to get someone like Elodie on. Elodie? Let me see some hearts if you guys want to see Elodie on. I'm going to try to make my magic. I want to get Armand, the character who plays Armand. I want to get him on the show. I want to see if I can find a way to reach out to his agent and say, let's get Armand on here. Annie, thank you. Annie, who's putting all this together. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything you've done. But again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for jumping on. Follow me on the Daily Podcast with me, Eric B. I put out a podcast once or twice a week. Follow me on Eric B's Daily Vlogs. I put out vlogs once or twice a week as well. This is going to be uploaded on YouTube. So if you guys missed it, if you guys don't have me on Facebook, you can go ahead and watch this on YouTube. And it's also going to be available on my podcast station. So if you guys are driving to work and you don't want to look at your phone and get into a car accident, you guys can listen to this on the Daily Podcast with me, Eric B. Once this is shared, I'll go ahead and leave everything down below. Aiden Kanto plays Armand. Oh yes. I'll see if I can make it work. We'll see. And if you guys follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, I have all that as well. And so that way you guys know the future shows that are coming on. Follow me on Twitter. So that way you guys know if I do get Adon, is it Adon Kanto? Is that his name? Who plays Armand? If I can get him on, you guys will know then. But until next time, thank you guys for watching. The podcast and the vlogs has ended. Go in peace.